through on the other side. And I always get stressed at this point if it actually, oh look, it actually did come through. So we are live. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our live demo today. We have the demo of Taito. It is a performance and people ops platform. So I'm very excited to see how Taito is doing this differently, because there's lots of tools in the market, but it's always great to see how people approach this topic in a new way. And we have Gary here today. He's our co-host. Gary, tell us a little bit about you and why you're here.
Jessie, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show. Super grateful. I'm an executive coach and leadership consultant, running my business under executive coaching and consulting, and the performance topic super important to me. Been in leadership for over 20 years. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'm hoping that Mikko can show us today that there is an easier way to approach this topic.
Exactly, and perfect lead into, we have Mikko here. He is the founding chief product officer of Taito, and he's going to take us through the product. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to actually do this.
My pleasure.
So people don't know what Taito is. Like, if you've never heard of Taito, give us your elevator pitch. What is your product? What does it do?
Yeah, well, before I pitch the product, maybe good to discuss about the different pain points on why we started building Taito in the first place. And that's really centered around the different kinds of pain points we and our three co-founders experienced in our previous companies. So we all three of our co-founders worked previously at a company called Smarty.io. We scaled that organization from 0 to around 1,000 employees. And we started introducing the different kinds of people processes and performance management processes quite late into the game during that growth process. And when we did introduce them, ultimately, we felt that those kinds of very traditional performance review cycles that we run once a year or maybe twice a year didn't really bring the business value that we were looking for. They were kind of a mandatory evil that we needed to get through. It stopped the whole company for 2 to 4 weeks at a time, and just ate time away from the sort of core business work that we needed to get done. So that was really the sort of starting point on why we then jumped over to building Taito. So we wanted to make sure that we are able to introduce tooling that makes performance management or performance enablement, as we say, a more continuous process.
I feel like that's what we all want. We all hate these processes. Like, let's be honest, I've never ever experienced a performance process that I liked, that I thought was useful. I don't know about you, Gary, but I haven't.
Same.
So I feel like one of my favorite things is seeing how companies are trying to do this differently, because I think it's one of the most important things to do for your development and for you as a company to, have the right outputs and the right deliverable, make the right performance, is to help, you identify what those things are and how to grow people towards, doing better in that space. So yeah, that's why I'm keen to see what your product does. So, I mean, you've talked about the challenges. What does Taito do? Like, why should we care about what you guys do? Are you doing it? I mean, you said you do it differently, you do it continuously, but you're also, you've also got the people ops kind of platform element as well. What do you kind of, what's your key thing you tell people that you do?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately what we want to really achieve is to use AI and automation as much as possible to introduce those kinds of atomic pieces of the performance enablement process into the daily work and weekly work of people, integrating into the tools that you're already using instead of having just a separate platform, and then using existing data as much as possible as the basis for the performance management, performance enablement processes, instead of, again, having to do this massive data collection cycles. So that's really the core of it.
Exciting. So why don't you get up your screen and let's see what everyone wants to see. How does it work? How can we revolutionize our lives? I'm always excited to dive in, because I see a lot of products, and I also seen the tools sometimes before, and I always get more of a deep dive when we do these, because you've got more time and you're more dedicated. So excited to see more of the product. So what are we looking at here? Can you also zoom in a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, does that look better?
Yeah, that's better.
Amazing, very good. So yeah, let's then dive into the actual product. So what we're currently looking at is the actual web application side of things. So this would be mainly the part that the administration would be using to sort of control how the product is set up, how the different automation runs, and so on. But as mentioned, we integrate also quite tightly into the different tools that you're already using, for example, Slack. And Slack is then the primary sort of interface for the other end users and individual contributors in the organization whenever they're using Taito.
I like that, meeting people where they are in their flow of work.
Absolutely. And what we're really looking at here is kind of an overview of the different core pillars that we try to achieve in our product and the dashboard of that. Starting with kind of our expectation setting side of things, and then leading over to the continuous feedback, and ultimately then the performance review automation side of things. So we really see that those three things are core parts of any good performance process, regardless of the tooling that you're using. So making sure that people have very clear expectations set, both from the organization side, defining what good performance looks like in different roles, different seniority levels, then making sure that people are continuously receiving feedback at sort of opportune moments regarding how they're developing and performing against those expectations, and then ultimately having as much of that continuous data in place that when we get to any kind of formal performance evaluation or performance review point in time, we could just use that data to actually formulate the review instead of having to do any kind of additional data collection at that point.
Mikko, can I jump in with a question there? When you say expectations framework, this is super clear to me, but I'm thinking about what size company are you pitching at? Because a small startup, 50 to 200 people, might not have the expectation framework in place yet, whereas a more mature company, 1,000 plus, would probably have that in place as a part of putting the structure and the framework in place.
I mean, we hope.
We hope. I've seen both. I've been at companies who do have it at 1,000 and some who do not. So is this a blocker for you to work with a company if they don't have the expectation frameworks in place? Would you do it alongside them? How would that work?
No, so I think that situation is quite reverse. So an ideal customer is like an early to mid-size organization that doesn't necessarily have some of the or all of the performance management, performance enablement components in place as a part of their processes. So, for example, in the case where you don't have a leveling or performance framework in place, Taito as a tool can help you set that up for your organization, and then again do that in a very personalized manner using AI. So what we're looking at here is a couple of some starter templates fitting into different organization types and organization sizes, whether it's ranging from like 10 to 50 employees all the way then to 1,000 employee enterprise organization.
And do in part of this, does it pull in these are like templates, right? Are they then customizable, and you pull in maybe things around your behaviors, expectations, and your cultural elements into that? Because a lot of people look at performance holistically, not just like output, but also behavioral indicators.
And all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So our framework is essentially based upon three components. That's the seniority levels, roles, and then the sort of role-specific skills that you're expecting people to perform in. And we offer the indeed ready-made templates for use cases, but in most cases you of course want to customize sort of ready-made templates to be really personalized for your organization. And for that purpose, we can just directly use our AI assistant within a tool to do some sort of quick, small tweaks using the ready-made options. But then also we can additionally bring in any kind of existing data that you have about your organization, your culture, your business context. So for example, if I have just a screenshot of, for example, our company values, that might also be like a complete culture handbook or even your existing performance framework again. You can just drag and drop all of that in, prompt the assistant to like include values from the image as attributes. And then it will start customizing the template based on the materials that you have provided it. And of course, if you have already, for example, created your employees in the system, then it will be able to use that employee data as a part of that.
Wow. And so this is job architecture, right, to some degree. Like it's about in these levels, in this job, in this level, in this potentially in this type of role, like as in HR versus engineering versus whatever. There's going to be some core things that are across the business, like your values and your behaviors, and then there's going to be very specific things for like certain expertise areas or whatever it might be. This is then pretty powerful because you need that for a lot of things. Like job architecture is something that I've seen done very poorly, right? And that's also why sometimes expectations are hard to set. People don't know. Like there's a lot of things that come from this base foundation. Are you finding organizations really have it like that this is really useful for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, like building that kind of leveling framework, job architecture is something that organizations battle with for months to sort of come up with an ideal solution. Now we can sort of generate a good baseline in minutes instead. So that's already quite a big time saver. And then ultimately, again, the value then comes into how we use this framework as a part of the performance enablement process in your organization. By having this very sort of transparent, well-documented baseline for performance and what good performance looks like, it's then ultimately easier to justify and measure good performance for employees. So then there's no kind of open questions of like what good performance looks like if it has been documented through this framework from the beginning.
And so what do you pull in as data for performance then? So you've got this, obviously you've got the baseline, like what are we measuring against, but what are you bringing in to measure against this? Is there, where is the data coming from? Like what kind of data points do you look at?
Yeah, so if we then think about like what kind of data we actually use for like performance evaluation purposes and how we also collect that data. So we try to do that again through continuous feedback as much as possible, as well as personal goal setting. So that kind of framework that we have in the base there, it swims into different parts of our application, one being the sort of personal goal setting part, where we try to guide people in setting concrete personalized goals in a very hyper-personalized manner, again using our agent to assist with the goal setting. And once those kinds of personalized goals have been set, we then start to facilitate different kinds of continuous feedback loops through Slack, through one-to-ones, and any kind of other meaningful moments.
So Mikko, I have a question. If I'm watching this program this afternoon and I'm using HiBob in my company at the moment, and I'm storing the goals in there at the moment, are you saying that what we could effectively do is API into HiBob, pull in all the goals data into your platform, and then work with the performance evaluation process here in this platform? Is that possible? Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
That is also very possible. So we all integrate into all of the major HRIS systems as well. So if you already have kind of your employee data documented, your personal goals documented, we can pull that data as context into our application. And then we can also assist in iterating those goals, in setting new goals, and so on.
Yeah. Does it push back into the system? Or only pull out?
So currently it is a one-way sync at the moment. That is mainly due to limitations on the sort of push API side.
They usually don't want people pushing. They don't want people using tools outside of their system. Making it hard for all of us. Okay.
But then ultimately, once those kind of expectations have been clearly defined, we try to facilitate those like quick daily and weekly continuous feedback loops around those expectations. And one way in which we do that is that we integrate into different systems of work, into Slack, your Google Calendar, again, your HRIS systems, as well as maybe any kind of project management systems as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we use different kinds of events from those systems to then trigger different kinds of continuous feedback loops. So those might be things like, for example, project ending in your project management system. And during that event, we kind of detect the people that have been collaborating within that project between themselves, and then launch this kind of very atomic continuous feedback nudges through Slack. So what we're looking at here is effectively my Slack Taito AI app, and we're seeing some of the sort of feedback nudges that I have been recently getting. So
we don't see your screen anymore. Did you change screens?
Let me see. I did change the screen, but let me
You'll have to
reshare.
So what I'm hearing is the system is pushing into, so something finishes, there's a trigger in the system, it's like your performance tool, it closes, it's triggering Taito to go in and like ask questions to people.
Yeah, so we do this like very atomic sort of continuous feedback nudges then through Slack, and again in a very hyper-personalized way. So we, for example, in this case, we have detected I have been working with our customer success manager or customer success lead, Reeta, recently based on our collaboration history. And then we also know about Reeta's personal role expectations, we know about her personal goals, and then we can sort of guide the feedback towards topics that would help Reeta grow in their role. So for example, how to get better feedback for the product within customer demo sessions.
But you don't read like Slack messages and see like how people are interacting with each other in channels, or you do, or you can?
We can. So we can also sort of trigger the Taito AI bot similarly within the Slack channels. We don't use that, or we don't read through all of your Slack history. So we mainly or get triggered by different kinds of events within Slack.
Yeah. Does it also take into account like meeting note takers or something? Can you connect to like a meeting note taker?
Yeah, so that's indeed we integrate into your Google Calendar, for example, and that sort of note taking is then or plays more part into our one-to-one tooling.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I can show that in, or actually we can jump over to there next.
So you have basically you've got we can see your screen, yeah. We've got the toolback. So you've got evaluation framework, setting the baseline of what's expected. Then you've got setting up the like what is it measuring? So like trying to measure like certain events and getting feedback and this continuous loop of feedback based on certain triggers within the work that's happening. And then you have also obviously like one-on-ones, which we're looking at now, which is where you might have like your one-on-one with your manager and that feedback and those calls that you have with your manager.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, typically, of course, those kinds of one-to-ones between managers, their direct reports, as well as between peers, are really important avenue for continuous feedback. And what we want to ensure is that those kinds of development and growth topics are also periodically surfaced as a part of those one-to-ones. So in a lot of cases, especially when you have junior managers, a lot of the one-to-ones are very focused on tactical level work, tactical level bullet point discussion topics. But we want to use our agent to again nudge people towards more of that long-term growth and development as well. So as an example, if I'm having one-to-one with our manager or with my manager, Christoph, is one of our co-founders as well, and we have a quick template here in place. You can also customize, of course, your personal one-to-one templates. But if I already have kind of a very, very quick bullet point template of what I would usually like to discuss in our one-to-ones with Krista, I can then use our agent on the side here to also dig deeper into our previous one-to-one history, any of my continuous feedback I have been getting, my personal goals and progress on those, as well as again the role expectations, and have the agent recommend us with sort of time discussion topics, especially again in terms of my personal development. But it might also include some like tactical topics that we have been discussing in the previous weeks. So ideally then you're never coming to a one-to-one kind of unprepared, since we can sort of prepare you for that in a matter of a few seconds.
Yeah, and so Mikko, what I'm seeing here then is, so you're saying the Taito platform is almost like this thread that runs through one-to-one conversations, both to help you structure and plan the conversation and to pull out the key parts of development or whatever was discussed so that it can collate it later for the evaluation round. Is that right?
Absolutely. So all of these continuous feedback loops that we run through Slack, through one-to-ones, all of that is just to facilitate that continuous discussion that we then also document into our system at all times. So then if we jump over to the actual sort of, or when it comes time to the actual formal performance review rounds, we have as much of that development-oriented and growth-oriented data available as possible. And we have made sure that those discussions have been had historically, and therefore kind of the outcome of the performance review shouldn't be a surprise to any party at that point.
So if you didn't, so it would be a flag as well in the evaluation, maybe on the manager side, if the one-on-ones aren't taking place, if there isn't feedback or there isn't a lot of data, that's also probably a flag in itself, right? That the process isn't, that it's something's missing around facilitating and supporting that person to get, performance feedback and continuous feedback across, the time, because the feedback we know is always important to have, like, in the moment. Is it something that I see in the moment? Like, if I get feedback on a project, do I see that instantly and then I know that that's going to be shared in the future, or is it something hidden, or like it's all visible and transparent to me as a right?
So fully visible and transparent in real time. You're of course also able to sort of post feedback that is only visible, for example, to a manager of an employee. But ultimately, we try to encourage people to share feedback transparently. We try to coach through good feedback practices through our agent and so on.
Okay. Yeah.
What are the flags here, though, Mikko? Let's just take a scenario. So let's say the leader of the leader. If I want to check my direct report is consistently having one-to-ones with team members, would I be able to see how my direct report is delivering one-to-ones? Can I check at any time and say, oh, this quarter he's on track for consistently delivering one-to-ones with his team members? What's the level of transparency there?
Yeah, so we by default sort of grant visibility based on your existing reporting structures. So managers have access to their team members' data. Admins, of course, can see data across the whole organization and all of the functions. And all of those core pillars that we've been discussing, so the continuous feedback, the progression of those, the personal goals, amount of one-to-ones, all of those are sort of metrics that we track and we then also expose on these different levels. So for example, as a manager, I can then also see myself if I'm forgetting to have one-to-ones with my team members, or if my team members are not getting continuous feedback, and can then facilitate also that continuous feedback for my team members if needed.
Does it flag those things? Like, so let's say it can tell that you're not having enough one-on-ones, or you're not really doing them frequently enough, and you can see that your team isn't getting that continuous feedback because of that. Is it going to say, hey, Jess, like, we see this pattern emerging, like that's not, that you're not going to have a very good performance review at the end of this if you don't, like, pull your socks up. You might want to think about doing that. Does the agent or the tool tell you those kind of like little like warnings for yourself, like, hello, you know, you're busy, but you forgot to do these things.
Absolutely. So that's where sort of our agentic nudges come into play. So our agent is basically running in the background on a daily basis, going through the sort of progress for all employees individually. And then, for example, as a manager, I might be getting this kind of a nudge regarding my team members, if there's kind of any recommended action points that I should be taking. In this case, this is mainly sort of oriented towards continuous feedback, but it might also be including some other suggested actions. For example, if I have a team member that is in their probation period, they haven't been receiving feedback, then our agent can detect that. It can suggest me actions to gather feedback from their peers, or maybe provide the feedback yourself as a manager.
That's good. And I imagine that, you know, when Gary was saying, you know, can the kind of skip level manager, can they see their team, their executive team, how they're performing? You can see that by the sounds of it. And it also means that the HR teams can also see that. So I guess like business partners, if they have the permissions, can also see how things are going. So that really arms them with a lot of data and a lot of, you know, actionable, supportive, you know, things they can do.
Data and empowerment, right? Because probably people partners watching this and they're thinking, this is a great tool, but I want the leader to get the prompts. I don't want to get the prompts so that I then have to tell the leader what they haven't done. This is one of the biggest challenges of being a business partner, right? So I'm hearing from you then that the actual leader will get the prompts as things progress to know what it is that they have completed.
Yeah, and that is absolutely correct. So typically, people teams struggle with the kind of like busy work and making sure that everybody is going, or everything is going well all the time, and looking at the metrics on a sort of repeating cadence. But now instead, our agents that are running in the background are sort of delegating and pushing those like lower level employees or managers to sort of take ownership and enable them to do a lot of the like team level leadership steps instead. And that's usually where it makes sense to take those steps. So it's kind of, or it's not usually as effective if, for example, people team member needs to come facilitate some process for you. It's much more beneficial if that can be handled within the team itself.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's also just empowering, you know, managers and leadership to take accountability for the fact that it is their topic, and it isn't, you know, it is part of your role to do that. And it's always been, you know, pulling blood out of a stone, you know, partly, you know, to get people.
Herding sheep.
Yeah, herding sheep, you know, it was always like this busy work, like you said. And so even setting up these rounds can sometimes just be so frustrating, and make sure that everyone's on top of it and chasing up. And it's because you only have feedback in that one moment. So if you don't have that round and people don't participate in that little window that you have open, you don't have any data. You know, whereas this is just like all the time happening, and it pulls it in. I'd love to see like what happens with the end like result, like of an evaluation. What does that look like? Did we see that yet? Because we've got like 2 minutes left. I'd love just to see what it looks like and wrap up. But this has been,
But this is actually perfect. So again, like mentioned, what we try to do is to make sure that the actual formal performance review part is as lightweight as possible and as automated as possible. So showing this is actually very quick. Ultimately, Taito does enable you to run kind of more traditional performance review rounds if you do want to do self-reviews and collect that additional feedback from managers and peers and so on. However, the kind of interesting part here is the performance intelligence part. So effectively, if you just toggle this single toggle on here, what that enables is then again for our agent to take a look at all of the existing data that you have collected, whether that's throughout the year, past 3 months, past 6 months, and kind of summarize all of that into a ready-made performance review already. So then ultimately, through that continuous performance enablement, we have gathered the data already, and then we are able to just summarize and aggregate that into the performance review before you have had to even write manually anything. And
Great.
again,
And I
using
get that all done. So it's all generated for me. I can review it, I can check it much faster. It's all based on data points that are there. And then once I've reviewed it, and is it my performance of myself is also submitted, but also other people's, your managers also got a side to it?
Yeah, so again, we do the same kind of analysis both from the self-review perspective, from a manager review perspective, and then you can sort of see similar kinds of summaries for yourself, and then of course managers see the summaries for their direct reports as well.
Nice, very cool. Okay, well, we're actually out of time, so as much as I'd love to see more, this was great. Any final questions, any kind of final thoughts, Gary, before we close out?
I have one last question, and my question is around matching, right? We've got all the data collated now. Is it producing an outcome, meets expectation, exceeds expectations, below expectation, because it has the role expectations built in now? Where's the matching happening?
Yeah. So again, that's fully customizable to your organization's culture. So you can use the sort of performance framework that you have built there to automatically sort of collect the data and aggregate and format the data into the format that the sort of your role expectations are in. If you want to get an automated sort of manager rating out of that, that's also possible, or you can collect that rating manually then on top of the automated analysis. So that's a very customizable thing.
Cool.
Oh, well, very cool. So thank you so much. We're out of time. If anyone is interested to have a look more at Taito, they can reach out directly to Mikko. They can also find them on stacked.tech on the database that I have. You can also reach out via their website, via, you know, message, like I said, throw a message in if you want to towards me, or even to Gary. Like, we're always happy to chat. Gary's got wonderful stuff happening as well on his side. If you're looking for executive coaching or any kind of things, definitely reach out to him. I really appreciate both of you joining. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for having us, Jess.
And
Likewise,
there
thank you
will
so
be,
much.
yeah, and there will be a follow-up email in case you want to review this or you want to connect with anyone. I'll send out all the links, so look out for that. And otherwise, check out the Luma calendar for more. We have a couple more demos, a couple more webinars coming up, so I'd love to see you all there too. And that's it. We're out. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.